Good day, Vikings. What do you think will happen if Odin sends you to Valheim, not to the peaceful green meadows, but to the hottest spot of this world? What if your personal war starts not with the construction of a drakkar, but from the very first day of being in Valheim? Today I decided to check what this could lead to. Is there a chance I can escape from here? Just naked Viking against the whole world. Take your meats, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Ashlands. And so I spawned in the heart of the Ashlands, right next to the Fighter Colosseum. First I looked around, and I immediately died. I decided to walk in the other direction and noticed a Monument of Torment. Bad news, I tell you. I need to find a way to destroy it as quickly as possible. In the meantime, I can check what's on the other side of the lava river, or die trying again. For the next few minutes I was dying, and dying, and dying, and dying, and dying. However, I found Askstream, which helped me to collect my first stone. Everything would have been fine, but ahead of me was a long and meticulous collection of stone and other resources. And you can see how serious Askstreams, vultures and skeletons of all types are. Little did they know, I'm also very, very serious. Day 3. As you can see, death doesn't scare me. After an hour of dying I managed to collect some resources, glowstone and most important, a little bit of stone. I must warn you that the world settings are not standard. As you can see, I am playing with triple resource multiplier, and I believe this is fair, considering where Odin has sent me. Next I started to collect wood. Fortunately, right behind the lava river there is a small burnt forest. Lava blobs helped me a lot with this job. Ashlands trees mainly can provide me with ashwood, but there is also a small amount of regular wood. Unlike oaks or beeches, these trees cannot be replanted, so in my situation, trees are valuable, non-renewable resource. That's why if I need to build something out of wood, I will use ashwood rather than regular wood. During one of my wood harvesting races I noticed a Morgan hole. In my opinion, it would be a good place to hide from the rest of the world. Of Of course, until I wake up the Morgan itself, so I need to be careful. If someone tells you that surviving in Ashlands is hard, just show him the next clip. Here is the ultimate Ashlands survival guide. If you see a charred marksman, just run away from his arrow rain. Of course, don't forget to dodge the twitchers. They throw stones, but speed isn't as fast as marksman arrows, so you have plenty of time to avoid their stones. There are a lot of igneous rocks in Ashlands. You can hide behind them to restore some stamina. The next enemy is a charred warrior. You can't even consider him as enemy, because he is so slow that he will not even touch you. There is also a place in Ashlands called a graveyard. Go to it, take tombstone, and now you have 50 seconds of corpse run status, which gives you many bonuses, including minus 75% stamina village when running or jumping. If you see a Morgan, just run away from him. Let him roll around, don't even interfere. And run into Morgan's hole. We are safe here. Just stay inside and you'll be fine. I collected resources from the graves nearby, so I was able to build a minimal shelter, where I can't skip the night yet, but at least I can set a spawn point. The next problem I want to solve is food, so I started picking grapes in the local ruins. At the same time, I broke vases to get metals from those vases. At the top of the ruins, I found the fated Vizier. Now I know where to find Fader. Oh, wait. And, of course, what would it be without some foolish deaths? And yes, I was very lucky that I was able to find 2 iron ingots. Why, you can ask me? Because now I can place a stone cutter, which will allow me to build from Growstone. And on the 6th day, God created man. And on the 6th day I started to build my shelter. I like to build in Valheim. I often start my buildings with fairly simple forms and try to decorate them over time. Unfortunately, being naked in the Ashlands is not an ideal place for those types of experiments. The main goal is to ensure my safety from the outside environment, so I build the simplest shelter. This is a long process in my situation, since the placing of a building block causes noise, and therefore all the mobs in the area gather to see what is happening here. Despite these problems, I continue to lay the floor and build walls. After the first layer of walls, I begin to feel myself a little bit better. I finished building the first layer of the wall and started on the second layer. To add a bit of variety, I included small windows in the second layer. After completing it, I moved on to the roof. At last, I have a place where I can be alone. Though this did not last long, because the lava blob came to visit me. Fortunately, the threat was eliminated. After that, I decided to run back and forth from shelter to graves to return my items, since there is a lot of building material in these graves, which will be used to build a much needed roof. While running, I have time to practice my dodge rolls and Ashland survivability in general. Believe me, I will need these skills. The Ashlands is not a place where you can have a fair fight with a charged warrior, an Asquin, vulture, or even Morgan. The Ashlands is a place where all the mobs will attack you at once, and if you somehow manage to kill them, the next wave of mobs will quickly take their place. The roof is a necessity, since lava blobs do not stop coming. Fortunately, I made it into the cave just in time. Otherwise, I would have died in the explosion. That would have meant running all the way back from the spawn, since the lava blob had destroyed my bed. I definitely don't want that happening again, so I hurried to finish building the roof using the materials I had brought back from the graves. And, of course, as a parting shot, another lava blob exploded near my home, apparently annoyed that I hadn't invited it in as a guest. One day, while I was cutting wood, I was attacked by vultures. I decided to run away and got help. As it turned out, there are dvergers near my house. Good news. I can't promise that they will live a long and happy life, but they certainly won't refuse to help me. Eventually, I built a shelter for myself. After that, I entered the margin hole again to get resources from the waves. Here you can see the most talentless dodge rolls in the whole Ashlands. In the end, I collected all the resources from the reputed hole and decided to set out on my first expedition. The weather is unfortunately not the best, but it is better to breathe fresh air than to sit at home. After a while, I noticed another margin hole. I immediately got the idea to use these holes as resting points. Inside, I can catch my breath, restore stamina, and wait until mobs get over me. I looted this hole and then came back home with the metal ingots. Vultures accompanied me all the way home, although they didn't dare to fly inside the house. There is nothing to wait for. While the weather is good, I need to explore the surrounding area. I ran in the other direction, more to the southwest. In my current situation, I have 5 types of food. If I stick to just the basic food, I'll end up with 100 HP, which is barely enough to avoid being one-shotted by a marksman, twitcher or vulture. However, adding cooked meat into the ration improves my chances of survival. I can withstand more hits from those mobs, or avoid being one-shotted by a Morgan or a charged warrior. I'll experiment with different mixes since meat might not always be available to me. After my death, I looked at the map and decided to run in the same direction again, but slightly farther west. I came across a charged fortress, but it is clearly not a place I want to spend long, so I quickly ran past it. After wandering to the west of my shelter, I was able to find a dverger's settlement. Of course, I marked this settlement on the map, and suddenly I realized that the word could be useful. How, you can ask me? Of course, I'm not interested in the contents of the boxes, but in the word itself. Because when it is destroyed, one certain core drops. And to make at least something useful from certain cores, I need at least 5 of them. So I finally have a new and quite achievable goal. Of course, I can't forget about the vases that can sometimes be found on the rocky plateaus between the stones. As you know, I have iron, silver and bronze, but I don't have copper. The copper pillar reinforcements served the dwergers well, but they won't need them anymore. Don't ask me why. At least now I have some raw copper. As it turned out, breaking the wall with a stone axe takes much more time than with the help of indigenous boars, especially because the sound of the axe makes too much noise. But finally I was able to get this core. After that I took all valuable resources and almost returned home, but was caught by Morgan. The 7th hour of the game. In fact, I have achieved more than I expected. I have a place to live, I have food, and I have lots of resources. At this point, I can surely say that the triple resource bonus helped me a lot. On the other hand, I started asking myself if I'm truly a Viking with such a bonus. After some household chores, I'm looking for a new direction for my next expedition. I decided to use the already found Putrid Hole as a checkpoint and run further south along the eastern side of the continent. While running away from the vulture, I noticed a stone with the following inscriptions. I have not been happy for more than a day in any place since I came here. But this place is the worst of all. Most things are on fire, and the fishing is not good. These are the words of Wolf. I found another dwerger settlement, but decided to leave it for now, since it is quite close to my house, and I can return to it at any time. I decided to head further south. After a while, I spotted a Morgan cave and went inside to rest. After a short break, I stepped back outside and started running north again. Along the way, I noticed another cave and some dwergers nearby. They helped me reach the cave safely. I wondered whether it would be better to spend the night in safety and travel during the day, or to run at night with the rested bonus. As you can see, I chose the second option. It's amazing how far I managed to run. Even more amazing is that during all this time I haven't come across another dwerger settlement. This started to worry me. I might not even find 5 settlements at this point. Of course, I tried running in every direction. It's worth noting that running through an area is easier the first time. I'm not entirely sure how Valheim's mechanics work, but it seems like mobs don't just despawn. They stay in place, and over time there seem to be even more of them. After yet another death, I decided to take a break and test out the Ashwood stake wall. Thankfully, I'd gathered plenty of ashwood during all this time. I started by catching vultures. Finding the right angle is not the easiest task. Considering that there will most likely be more than one vulture, this task becomes much more difficult. Then I decided to try out different traps for ground mobs. The problem is that even preparing the traps isn't a trivial task. On top of that, the stake wall needs to be constantly repaired, and if I don't keep an eye on it, the stake wall will need to be rebuilt. Additionally, if it gets destroyed, I won't get 6 ashwood back. During all this time, I'll most likely have to keep running away from all types of ashwood mobs. The next structure consists of 12 spikes, 3 on each side. The main disadvantage is the corners, in which mobs do not take any damage. Another problem with the dense structures is that if a piece of lava from a geyser hits them, fire will quickly spread throughout the entire structure. In general, stake walls are effective against single mobs. With enough practice, you can learn to deal with lone mobs quite easily. As it turns out, Askswin is the easiest mob to kill in such a way. On top of that, in the Ashlands you can find fallen Valkyries, which destroy any of your structures. Sometimes strange things happen in Ashlands. For example, here you can see a lava blob simultaneously killing a teammate and stealing a frag from Dverger. After that, the rogue asked me, "Who goes there?" and proceeded to commit Dvergercide. Afterward, everything became clear to me, and I returned to exploring the territories. I managed to find a Dverger settlement to the north of the spawn. It was very difficult to get there, because there are 2 monuments of torment on the way. If only Dvergers knew what would happen next, they would have shot me the moment they saw me. There was such a chaos that even I was shocked. However, I picked up the core and returned to my checkpoint. Here you can see the miracle of engineering that I called a hedgehog cave, or just a hedge cave. I have enough space to put a workbench, a bed, and even a couple of chests if needed. And all this is guarded by 3 stake walls. I can stand here forever and repair these stake walls. Do you remember that byway to the north of the eastern part of the continent? It turns out there was another Dverger settlement in the unknown territory, so this wasn't a bad idea to check this part of the map. I chose to rest by the flickering campfire for the night. Above me, a faint blue gleam fought to pierce the thick, fluffy clouds that shrouded the sky of this once beautiful place. I let my mind drift, imagining myself sailing across the endless sea, facing the fiercest of foes, yet always finding solace in the quiet act of building a home. That tiny glimmer of sky, a distant whisper of hope, filled me with strength, as if the very stars themselves were cheering me on. On the next day, Charred Marksman helped me to destroy the world. And after I received another core, I set out even further north in search of more settlements. Anyway, I'm planning to move my main base to the north one day. And I found 5th settlement. It took me only 3 hours to get here from spawn. I decided to leave it for now, as I realized the ruins. Of course, I peeked inside and collected all the vases I could reach. Really a treasure trove, so expedition has already succeeded. After clearing the ruins, I returned to the settlement. I won't show what happened to Dvergers for ethical reasons, but in the end I took a certain core in this settlement too. At this point I have 4 Surtling cores. Not far from my main shelter there is an unlooted settlement, and of course I hurried to finish cleaning it up. And this is how my map looks after this challenging task. The drawing of the map turned out to be amusing. It reminds me of Kraken that has spread its tentacles in all directions. But let's not talk about Krakens. I gathered the resources for the smelter, and now I can finally smelt copper. I decided to put the smelter inside the shelter. However, I don't have a good chimney, so I had to rebuild the roof a bit so I could finally refine copper in the smelter. Why do I need copper? Of course, for the forge. With the forge I will be able to access a huge number of new items. Right? The list doesn't seem comprehensive to me, so I decided to add anvils to craft more items. Still not impressive. I decided to craft bronze nails, and so unlocked access to 4 more items. I asked myself, maybe more improvements are needed? Anyway, I don't have enough resources for the forge to wreck. I began to examine the map, thinking where I can get more iron ingots. As a result, I decided to go to the south of the western part of the continent, because I remembered that there were the ruins. I prepared another hedge cave for myself. I already had built half a dozen of them in different parts of the continent. This innovative engineering breakthrough turned out to be extremely worthwhile, since without hedge caves I would still have 2 or 3 Surtling cores. I slowly and carefully cleared the ruins. The local bone maw wasn't happy with my arrival, but I tried my best not to tease it. It didn't work well, so I had to hide. Since I arranged a hedge cave for myself, and in case of death I will respawn here, it is worth looking inside the cave for more vases. In the end, from the ruins and the merging cave, I bring out a total of 7 iron, 7 bronze and 9 silver. By the way, if you look at the map, I cleared the more western cave, with the ruins located to the south of it. On the way to that cave there is another one, so as soon as I sorted my items into chests, I decided to check out the closer cave as well. In this cave I found 2 more silver, 2 bronze and 1 iron. On the way back, a vulture started following me. I thought that Virgil would help me deal with it, but he simply chose to die instead. Left one-on-one with the vulture, I decided it is time to prove that I can do more than just run away. I moved to the other side of the rock onto a flatter surface, and my first serious battle began. I returned home, grabbed some meat to cook, and it turns out you can't cook meat on a regular stand anymore. I decided to test the voucher meat. Same result. This poses a serious complication for my challenge. Who knows if I'd have made it to those distant virtual settlements without cooked meat. And even if I had, it would have taken much longer. But let's not dwell on the past. Better to focus on the present. I'm still in the Ashlands. I finally put my silver to use, and apparently the silver shield is the only thing I can craft with it. With my new gear, I feel much more confident. Of course, my attempts were clumsy at first. I haven't held a shield in ages. Hold on, let's power this attack. Nope, missed again. One more try. Alright, I've got it now. I'm definitely not throwing the shield away. It might come in handy against vultures or twitchers. Then the time came. I started gathering the most important items to carry across the continent. In the end, I packed 3 chests with a total weight of around 550 kilos? Pound? Marks? I'll have to make 2 trips. I set out for the north, heading toward the long-awaited green meadows, forests, plains, and mountains. I decided to move from cave to cave, using the path I'd already laid out toward the north. It seemed simple enough, just run from one featured hole to the next with my items, yet somehow it still took me an hour. I set up in a cave I'd spotted earlier while searching ruins for oases. There I made a temporary shelter, arranged the chests, and sorted my belongings. My next goal is to destroy a monument of torment. It's in the way of gathering wood and grousting, so I asked Morgan to clear it. After I died couple times, Morgan finally helped me destroy this monument, and even helped me to kill some of the charred skeletons. I think it's time to show you what I'm planning to do next. At the north of the Ashlands, there are many cliffs that rise high above sea level. What's great about them is that they act like a ground, serving a stable foundation for building pieces. I want to build using grousting, because it offers much more horizontal stability compared to regular stone. On top of the grousting stairs, I can also add a ashwood floor. If I want to build a bridge between 2 cliffs, I'll start building from one side, and if that's not enough to reach the next cliff, I'll take a workbench, stone cutter, ashwood, grousting, and begin building a similar bridge from the other cliff. This way, I plan to move as far north as possible. After that, I'll decide my next steps based on the situation. So, let's start. I began building a road to the north. I decided that another outpost, this time on the water and farther from the land mobs, would be very useful. So, I immediately started constructing a path to a cluster of rocks where I'm planning to establish my shelter. The result isn't the coziest dwelling, but it's functional and spacious enough for half a dozen chests. Moreover, I've already moved most of the items from the H cave to my new dwelling. After that, I returned to the mainland to farm grousting, which I'd need a ton of. Thankfully, the Morgans helped me with that. On the water, I started to feel much more at ease. Why? Because here, at least, I could stand my ground in a fight. I could hope that if I engaged a vulture, I wouldn't suddenly be swarmed by 10 skeletons, 3 Askwins, a Valkyrie, and a Morgan. I kept building a walkway from one rock to the next, steadily pushing northward. Sometimes the gaps between the rocks were so large that building a bridge felt extremely risky, and still I even need to jump from one side to another. Most of the time I tried to sneak past the vultures quietly, but that didn't always work. In such cases I had to fight them, and as you can imagine, it didn't always end well. Sometimes they came in groups, which made combat much harder, especially on a small platform where falling almost guaranteed death. During one such battle, I realized that the fight isn't fair. I started running away and slipped down. The vultures quickly killed me, but I noticed that they take damage from the hot water. In theory, this could be used to kill them, but not in practice. Trust me, I've tested it. As you've probably guessed by now, the main enemy on the water isn't bone maw, but the vulture. In most cases, during the bridge construction, they come to the noise quite quickly. However, if the section of the bridge is already built and there is a chance to pass by them unnoticed, then I would definitely do so. Of course, bone maw also a dangerous creature. Its spitting attack has fire damage, so it also can set my workbench or stone cutter on fire. I'll get coal instead of wood from a burnt out workbench. Regular wood is already hard to get in Ashlands. Keep in mind that I'm already far from mainland, so I have to make a long journey back across the already built bridge. And at any moment I can be attacked by vultures. If I fall into the water with the resources, it will be quite difficult to get them back. There were moments when I just wanted to give up, to throw in the towel. But then I'd remember that little patch of sky above my head, and I keep building further and further north. The farther north I go, the worse the weather becomes. Thunderstorms, high winds, and towering waves accompanied me constantly. Eventually, I made it far enough to see the mountain, and I desperately wanted to reach it. As I gazed at the mountain and played markers on my map, a magma fish somehow landed on the platform. How can I believe wolf after that, when a fish just begs to be caught by me? Despite making significant progress, I had to return to the mainland again for the stone and wood, which I'd run out of. It seems this Morgan is really want me to leave the Ashlands as quickly as possible, because few could chop wood as efficiently as this Morgan does. Not only that, but he helps me take down vultures and charged skeletons, gather growstone, and even helps me destroy the Monument of Torment. Huge thanks to you, Morgan. Without your help in my situation, I would never have been able to collect all these resources. Let's talk about the weather. A meteor shower in the Ashlands rocky area is the worst weather combination in Valheim. First, nighttime visibility is roughly 5 meters, with lightning being the only thing illuminating the way. Second, the meteor shower burns wood. I even fell off a bridge once because of it, as I couldn't jump to another side of the bridge. Third, the meteor shower drastically reduced my FPS. And this day has come. Good morning. Day 78. I've done everything I could, preparing as much as possible with the resources at my disposal. I set out along the path I'd worked so hard to build, heading north. I've already transferred most of the resources. I also brought materials to build a forge. The chest on the other side of that long bridge already contained stamina and health potions, tasty meats, food and smoke bombs, the only ranged weapon I have. Smoke bombs can't kill a bone maw, but there is a small chance they'll make it swim away. At least I believe they might help, as a bone maw once retreated after I pelted it with smoke bombs. While I walk, I have some time to explain the water mechanics in the Ashlands. Layers in contact with boiling water accumulate heat. On the northernmost edge of the Ashlands, dying from overheating is nearly impossible. It takes about 13 minutes to start taking damage. The heat buildup decreases proportionally in the first 300 meters of the Ashlands Ocean. There is also a transition line visible on the map, which serves as a useful marker. I'll call it the hot line. At the hot line, full overheating takes about 2 to 3 minutes. Beyond the first 300 meters, the time to fully overheat doesn't change and stays at 28 seconds. There's also a way to reset heat. If you avoid touching the water for at least 0.7 seconds, your heat level resets to 0. There are few more interesting mechanics. For example, if you exceed the maximum heat and start taking damage from overheating, you will continue to take damage even after leaving the Ashlands. To reset heat, you must fully get out of the water. There is another notable line in the Ashlands where the water turns red. Let's call it the warm line. The warm line isn't marked on the map, but exactly at this line heat accumulation begins. The Ashlands boundary often doesn't align with the warm line. Crossing it is a key goal because once you do, the heat problem is no longer an issue. Now that you know all these facts, you can understand why building a bridge as far north as possible is crucial. Every meter counts. Luck also plays a significant role. When I was building the bridge, I didn't know how far I could get. Of course, I started construction from the northmost point visible on my map, but that doesn't guarantee you reaching even hot line. It's also possible to get close to the warm line, but find no nearby land, only endless ocean. Finally, I reached my last Ashlands outpost. I warmed myself by the stones heated in the forge, climbed up to my port, and checked one last time to make sure all the essential items were aboard my dracar. I launched my boat into the water and gazed thoughtfully at it. Memories from my long journey came to mind. I really want to sail away from here, but I even got a little attached to this place, despite all the suffering it brought me. I took one last look at the majestic rocks of the Ashlands. With hopes for a safe voyage, I boarded my dracar and set sail northward, away from these lands. Odin, wise and powerful ruler of Asgard, God among the gods, grant that I may be shielded from the misfortune and death. We call you here to go against our enemies. Upon reaching the mainland, I visited a larger settlement in the nearby Mistlands. After that, I visited cultists to gather resources for Fenris armor. I didn't forget to visit the Black Forest to say hello to the troll. Although, when I saw him the next day, he wasn't in the best shape. I collected some sorting cores and fine wood to make use of the highest technologies for spatial travel. Of course, I also paid a visit to the Leviathan to give its back a scratch. I want to use stone at building my ideal home, but I don't have any iron for a stone cutter. So I decided to kill the Elder to get a key and clear out a nearby swamp crypt. Finally, having completed all my small tasks, I arrived to the real spawn in the very center of the world. It took me 99 days. After that, I built myself a home. The only thing left now is to find a wife, raise children, and tell them tales about my incredible adventures at the edge of the world. Thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, I can assume you enjoyed the video. In that case, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I also encourage you to subscribe to my Patreon if you'd like to see more hardcore Valheim content. Special thanks go out to Kate Lapshin. As for the playthrough itself, it took me around 40 hours to complete. Unfortunately, editing this video took even longer due to my lack of experience. Throughout the playthrough, I died 334 times. If for some reason you'd like to watch the full uncut playthrough, there is a link to the complete playlist in the description. For now, I'll say goodbye, and I wish you a great day.